News reports are coming in all over the country that a market shift is happening, a housing crisis, a real estate bubble is about to pop. My friend, it's already popping all over the country. We're seeing a market shift, but what exactly is taking place in Northwest Arkansas? I hope to be your local resource here to deliver this information to you to help you understand the facts, the trend lines, the statistics, to help you make the best informed decision. Because I bet right now you're sitting there trying to understand, is Bentonville, is Benton County going to be the next best place for you and your family to move to? Or perhaps if you're watching this video and you're a seller here in this market, this information is going to help you also. My friend, if we haven't had a chance to meet, allow me to introduce myself. My name's Anthony Mosley, and I'm a real estate broker here in Benton County. I'm licensed in the entire state of Arkansas and Missouri, but most of my business happens right here in Benton County. And the information that I'm going to deliver to you today is specifically to Benton County. As an understanding on the front end, these are single-family residential homes. These aren't condos, they're not townhomes, they're not duplexes, but understand that does have a factor that plays into an area's living opportunities, whether that be a multifamily duplex or quadplex, or perhaps maybe the rental market that's here local. Those are other indicators, but the information that I have access to is here on our local MLS. As a real estate broker, I'm able to pull this information and deliver it to you, help you understand historically, here's what's happened, and here's where we're going. So we're here at the end of Q2, beginning of Q3. I cannot believe that half of 2025 is already over. But I do know that there is so much going on around our country and probably inside of your thought process with everything that's going on with federal interest rates, what's going on with tariffs, what's going on with housing, and how can I make the best decision possible? My friend, that's what I'm again hoping to help deliver to you today, is this information to help you make the best decision, whether or not to buy or sell here in Benton County, Arkansas. Housing correction. There are typically about 4 or 5 indicators that tell us if there is a shift happening. So let's go ahead and bring up the list right now. I'm going to answer these for us with local market knowledge. One is a sharp increase in inventory. Really, supply and demand is what we're talking about there. Number 2, price reductions become more common. Number 3, homes are sitting on the market, so we're going to talk about days on market. One of my favorite metrics to talk about is days to contract. Number 4 is appraisal gaps and canceled contracts. Now, I don't have the ability to see canceled real estate contracts, but I have the ability to see withdrawn or expired real estate listings that kind of give us some of that same kind of indication. And number 5 is local economic or interest shock, meaning is there a large employer here in Benton County, Bentonville, if you will, or Walmart, Tyson, JB Hunt, all right here in the local area? Is there something going on with a major employer, good, bad, or indifferent, that can also affect a market shift for a hyper-local economy? If you've been watching my channel for a while, you probably heard me say that real estate is hyper-local. What's happening an hour up the road in Joplin, Missouri, or what's happening an hour down the road in Fort Smith, Arkansas, is completely different than what's happening right here in Benton County. So let's go ahead and dig into the information. It may be helpful for you to understand, my friend, because there is so much new construction that happens in Northwest Arkansas, and specifically Benton County. I have to break out new construction to really understand the data, because new construction can skew, especially our days on market as an example. Our first metric that we're going to look at is total home sales, and how many of those are new construction. In Q2 of 2025, we saw 1,789 homes sales. 615 of those were new construction. That's 34.38% of the homes that sold in Q2 in Benton County or new construction. I personally happen to believe with more data comes a richer understanding of what's happening in a marketplace. I think it's super beneficial to look back as far as we possibly can without getting too far into the weeds. Let's go ahead and pop up this chart showing what Q2 sales have been for the last 10 years. Starting here in Q2 of 2014, going all the way through Q2 of 2025, we had growth all the way from 2014, whereas 2016, 2017 were about similar, then continued to grow again 2018 through 2019 and 2020 that were about the same. 21 through 25, we did see some ups and downs in there, but looking at Q2 of 2025 compared to the last few quarters, is we're not seeing a significant drive down in the amount of home sales. Many markets across the country are saying that not only home prices are down, but the amount of transactions are down also. Here in Northwest Arkansas, that is not the case. As you can see from this chart, we're about the same as what we were in 2023 and 2019 and 2018. 2021, right after COVID, there was some craziness that happened in our market. Real estate value shot up dramatically, overinflated, if you will. That's why we're seeing a correction in many places. That last chart shows you that our market is fairly strong here in Benton County. And as mentioned earlier, let's go ahead and break out new construction. Here's a chart showing you how much percentage of all of those sales were new construction. 2014, we didn't have nowhere near as much new construction as we do today. You can see 15, 16, 16, 17, 19, moving on up, 22, 26, 28, 40% in 2023 was new construction. Q2 of 2024 was 33, and Q2 of 2025, 34%. So some big years of new construction the last few years here in Northwest Arkansas. We're trying to keep up with the amount of demand that is here. Again, we are one of the top growth regions in the country. So we have multiple people moving here on the regular. Maybe where you're coming from, people are fleeing and getting out of town. But that's not the case here in Benton County. Now that we've got an understanding of the last 10 to 12 years of quarter data, let's go ahead and look from January to June this year in 2025, looking at average sale price. Because I'm sure you're probably going, hey, what's the average house there in Benton County, Arkansas? Some people recently have commented on my channel that it's north of 600,000. It's not. Yes, there are plenty of houses you can buy less than 600,000, and the average sale price starting out in January of Benton County at the beginning of the year was $458,012. There's only been 1 month that we didn't go up. There was 1 month we went down. February was $459,893. March was just shy of $475,000. April was a tick up just over $475,000. Then in May we went down. Interestingly enough, there were more homes sold in May of the first 6 months of the year than any other month. But in May, the average sale price was $468,000. So we kind of dipped back down. I wonder if new construction had something to do with that. Just last month in June, the average price jumped up to over $500,000 at $503,349. Yes, and in fact, in May, there were more new construction homes in May than any other month. Now, the average new construction home, my friend, in Benton County isn't your Bentonville 4-bed, 3-bath, $800,000 house. It's not. There's many homes in Benton County in the outskirts towns like Pea Ridge, Gravette, Centerton, Decatur, Gentry, Highfield, even far west Bentonville that are selling in the 250 to 350 range, which is bringing that average sale price down. Out of the 642 sales that happened in May, 235 of them, nearly half of them, were new construction. So I believe that's what brought that down. So those new houses probably started in the latter part of Q3 or Q4 last year and are just now finishing up in May of this year. Just over 36% of the homes that sold in May of this year were new construction. And yes, for those of you that love price per square foot, my absolute favorite metric to hate, we started out the year at $214 a square foot, and we finished June at $229 a square foot. We went up $15 a square foot where other markets were going down. We're seeing price reductions. We're seeing people slashing prices. I saw one YouTuber in Florida said that there are houses that are going hundreds of thousands of dollars less than original list price to actually close, so those people can move on to wherever they're moving to. If you stuck with me this long, please stick around a little bit longer. We're getting into some more of that analytical data that's really helping us understand the idiosyncrasies of the market. This is typically a longer video on my channel. Usually my videos are about 7 to 12 minutes long. This one's gonna be a little bit longer because, again, I feel it's my responsibility to help convey this information to you, my friend, to help you decide maybe it's the best to move or not to move to the region here of Northwest Arkansas and Benton County. Believe it or not, I'm not going to talk about specific price points in detail on this video. Now, we can certainly get into that, but just know that 2016 all the way through 2025, in regards to Q2, every year, home values have increased. So 2016, we started out at $232,573. every Q2, that number has increased all the way here to 2025 at $481,064. As a cooperating broker, I speak with many other brokers in our marketplace, and what I've heard recently is many longtime veteran agents in our marketplace have said something to the effect of, Anthony, I'm seeing so many more higher end sales happen in our marketplace than I ever have in my 15, 20, 40-year career here in Benton County, Arkansas. So I thought I would look at the higher end of our market. Now, where you're coming from, high six figures, low seven figures probably isn't luxury market, probably isn't high end for you, but it is for us when our average sale price is around that $450,000, $500,000 mark. I'm tracking how many homes have sold in Q2 over $1 million over the last few years. So let's go ahead and pop up a chart looking from 2016 all the way to 2025. You can see here from 2016 to 2019, there were less than 10. Then after 2020, after COVID took place and home prices started getting inflated, we're now seeing in 2024 to 2025, there's been an increase of over 30 homes. So from 56 to 87 homes over $1 million sold in Benton County in Q2 of 2025. My friend, that is a significant jump in a higher end marketplace. So the lower end, right? So under your average price point tends to move quite a bit. That usually from anywhere from base list price all the way up to maybe just over the average price in a healthy market tends to move quite a bit. Now again, so in our market here in Benton County, we're seeing a lot of the upper register, that high six figure or even low seven figure jump up. One of the factors that goes into that is there are some new home builders that are building in the upper six figure, low seven figure range. In years past, many builders are trying to stick just above the average price point. They're trying to build maybe just a little bit larger home, but there are quite a few now, again, that are building in the upper register of homes here in Benton County. James, if you would, please pop up the graph of my Excel spreadsheet. Look here at May of 2025. Based on that monthly sales data, we can see that May, again, was our highest sales month. There have only been 3 other years out of the last 12 that had May as the highest amount of closings for that year. Now, granted, with market volatility that we've been speaking about all through this entire video, May could very well be our highest month. However, after looking over the last 10 to 12 years, typically our hottest months are June and July here in Benton County. So with May, even in the years that May was the highest sale month, or even June was the highest sale or closing month, over the last 10 to 12 years, there have only been 2 years where there were less sales in the second half of the year than there were in the first half. Those were 2023 and 2022, which isn't surprising to me at all, because if you remember back to 2022, that's when a lot of the building materials started skyrocketing. So lumber prices were going through the roof too, which affected home sales in the latter part of 2022. Furthermore, in our marketplace, our coldest months, not just temperature-wise, but also real estate closing months, is typically January or February. In 2022, our coldest or lowest sale month was actually November for both existing and new construction homes. New construction's lowest month in 2023 was also in Q4 in December, respectively. Now that we've had a chance to look at historical data, let's look at our market where it is right now. The next indicator that we can see in our marketplace is pending home sales. Where are homes trading in our marketplace? As of right now, the shooting of this video, there are 1,036 homes, again, single family houses, not condos, townhomes, duplex, or modulars. There are 1,036 homes that are pending in Benton County, with over 55% of those being new construction. The average home that's pending in Benton County right now is $533,590. For those of you that really want to know, that's $233 per square foot. As far as days on market, the average days on market is 93. Now, if you haven't watched a market update from me before, you understand that there's a difference between days pending and days on market. The difference between those two is how many days there were to contract. So once the property was actually listed on the multiple listing service to when somebody had placed a contract on that property. Pending properties, we're not able to see that data until it actually closes. As we go further along in the video, we'll be able to again pick apart some of those numbers to really understand where our market is going here locally. Moving over to current properties, there's currently 1,606 homes available for sale in Benton County, Arkansas. The average price is $646,056. You may be saying, Anthony, that's quite a bit higher than the average sale price. Yeah, my friend, there are homes that are up in that upper register, the $15 million, $8 million, $3 million, $2 million range that don't move as fast, that are skewing the data up. Also notice that I'm not going to tell you about the average acre size because existing homes typically are going to have more acreage, whereas new construction homes, we don't see a lot of builders going out and building on 3 to 5 acres. They're building in those quarter acre lots or those third acre lots as an example here in Benton County. The average price per square foot is $268, and there's 196 homes currently active for sale that are over $1 million. I said I was tracking that earlier, so there's quite a few homes in our marketplace that are in that upper register. Now let's break apart that new construction. Of those 1,606 homes, 559 of them are new construction at $525,000 on average, at $233 a square foot, which is very similar to our pending number at $233 a square foot. And of that new construction, as mentioned, there were 196 total homes over $1 million. There's 31 that are new construction that are over $1 million. So the builders are building a lot of homes for, again, as our property values increase and as our market at the upper end of our market starts growing, we're going to see more and more homes over $1 million unless we see a major correction, which, little shocker for you, I don't see that happening here in Northwest Arkansas or Benton County. And I'll tell you why. At the beginning of the video, I told you one of the indicators of a market shift is days on market. Next chart showing days on market, which also shows us days to contract. The reason we don't go back further than 2022 on days to contract is because our local MLS didn't start tracking days pending versus days on market until around March of 2022. So before 2022, I have days on market information for us. But for the sake of this chart, let's go ahead and just look back to 2022 to give us an idea as to days on market. You can see that 2025, 24, 23 are all very similar as we are halfway through the year, 48, 48, 44 days to contract. So again, from listed on the market to pending. So our pending number gives us that. We don't see a large jump in this number. In fact, if you get down into the data even more specifically, June of this year, we had the lowest days to contract since 2023, just for the month of June, but 37 days to contract in June of this year. Days on market is about the same at 98, 94, 95. Again, many new construction builders are going to put the home on the market maybe once it hits drywall stage. So you could see that there's actually something conceptual there to be able to understand. But an existing home goes on the market, you can buy it right now. New construction, you might have to wait a little while before that home is finished, in turn drawing a longer day on market. That's why I like to look at that days to contract number. Is, in my opinion, days to contract gives us a richer understanding of how quickly our market is moving. Looking back here at 2021, the average days to contract was 21 and a half days, with certain months in that year like April, May, and June that were 11 to 15 days to contract. Of course, that's on average, my friend, so I'm sure you remember those days back in 21. It seemed as though somebody put a home on the market and it was already sold before the sign even went in the yard, before the photos were even taken, or before it even hit the MLS. We were seeing many homes already sell, and of course, in multiple offers. Another factor to consider as we're rounding out all of this information, not just sales data, not just days on market, but list to sale ratio. Maybe the home was listed at $500,000 and sold for $501 or sold for $498. So let's look at that. I went ahead and looked back the last 5 to 6 years. From 2020 all the way here to 2025. 2020 was 98%. 2021, we jumped up to over 100%. 2022, that's when sale prices went bananas, and we were at 101.48% in 2022. Then back down to 98.7, 98.93, and then here at 98.7. Again, we're similar to 2023 in regards to our list to sale ratio. So our prices are extremely inflated, and then people are buying it way down here. Yes, there are some homes. These are average numbers, my friend. But there are still homes in our marketplace that are selling above list price and in multiple offers. If you're watching this from somewhere else in the country, you're probably not seeing that in your marketplace. You're probably seeing list to sale ratios closer to that 90 to 93 range, or maybe even less than that. But here in Benton County, we still have a healthy market. These last two final metrics before we kind of wrap this all up, my friend, help us understand a fuller picture. Now, do you remember back in the housing crisis, 2008, 2012, we were seeing short sales, foreclosures, REO properties, or bank-owned properties. Let me show you how many homes were actually bank-owned or short sale here in Benton County over the last 5 to 6 years. Now, I caution you, as you're looking at headlines across the country, please understand that when people talk about percentages, they're like, oh, it's up 400% year over year, or from 2020 to 2025, it's up 400%. Well, let's talk about the actual statistical number, the number in which we're comparing. In 2020, there were 38 foreclosure short sales in all of 2020 in Benton County. After 2020, we dropped way down to 7 foreclosure short sales in REO properties. 22, 3, we doubled. We went 200% from 2022 to 2023, going up from 3 to 6 total foreclosures, short sales on homes in Benton County. Then we almost doubled again, going up to 11 in 24, and then we dropped back down to 7 so far just this year. Now, I wouldn't anticipate there's going to be very many more, so sometimes I have people reach out to me, they're like, hey, Anthony, I'm looking for a deal. I'm looking for a short sale or foreclosure or bank-owned property. I'm like, I'm not your guy. Don't get me wrong, I think everybody needs to be served, but I'm not going to go try to find a needle in a needle stack, my friend. It's difficult to find those properties, and when you do, you have to be ready to pounce, sometimes sight unseen, in order to get to those in time. That's not always the case, but it certainly can be on properties like that. Last but not least is expired listings. So expired listings happen a lot in a marketplace where things are not moving, or where sellers think that they can get this and let's throw it out there and see what we can get for our house. So it's either one of those types of markets where you see a lot of expired listings, or in a market where supply extremely outweighs demand, and so there's so many options to choose from that a lot of the listings will expire.
Expired.
So let's go again, look back at 2020 through 2025, and we're just going to look at mid-year again. So just kind of give you an understanding from 2020 through 2025, but just January through June, so we can compare year over year. How are we tracking? 2020, there was 108 by mid-year, then dropping way down in 2021 by this time. 2022, there was 42, then doubled in size. Again, we went 200% of expireds from 2022 to 2023 with 84. Then now again, we're starting to creep up, my friends. So as we're starting to creep up, 24 had 92 by mid-year. Here we are in 2025 with 118 expired properties. So this is where Anthony is speaking maybe a little tongue-in-cheek when it comes to a market softening or market correction. Do I think home prices are going to nosedive here in Northwest Arkansas? Absolutely not. Let's go back to our market correction factors that we talked about at the beginning of the video. Kind of just wrap this all up. One, we said that there's got to be a sharp increase in supply. That's supply in demand. Currently, right now in Benton County, there is about 3 months of supply, meaning if we stopped listing properties right now, it's going to take us historically from the last 6 months sales data, it'll take us about 3 months in order to buy up all that inventory. If you're a local real estate agent, you're watching this, you're like, holy cow, no, Anthony, there's closer to 4 months of supply. I would encourage you to just look at Benton and Washington County, because we know there's homes that are listed in Madison County and Missouri and Oklahoma that are part of our MLS. So just looking at Benton County, it's close to 3 months of supply. If we're looking at Benton and Washington together, closer to 3.27 months of supply. A little bit understanding, if you're not sure what that means, my friend, a balanced market is when there's about 4 to 6 months of supply. Any less than that, it's a seller's market. Any more than 6 months of supply, it's a buyer's market. Buyers have the choice of whichever home they want to buy. Almost everything's for sale, essentially. It being the middle of the year, here in July, we typically have a bit of a cooling period in Benton County before things pick up one more time right before school starts. Statistically, I can show you the numbers, but I think I've numbered you out so far. But my friend, we know that here in Benton County, It again flattens a little bit in July, picks back up one more time right in August before things cool off September, October, November, December. Number 2, we said price reductions become more common. Yes, there are more price reductions, especially this time of year. We've got those people that tried to sell their home in March, April, and now they're not getting it sold. They're saying, hey, I've got to get this home sold and buy another one before I can get my child registered in school. Bentonville schools, you got to live in the school district. Yeah, there's some caveats there to do school of choice, but to establish yourself in the school district, you have to have your residency established probably prior to August. I believe Benton County schools start back again about the second week of August. The third factor was homes are sitting on the market longer. So again, depending on where you're watching this from, you may be hearing local realtors or even news sources saying days on market are increasing dramatically. They're doubling, they're tripling. Earlier, we had learned about how Benton County is, we're about the same when it comes to days on market or days to contract as we have been. That's not really changing here in our market. That's why I don't think we're going to see a major correction here in Northwest Arkansas, here in Benton County. We may, baseball, not a crystal ball. We may see a softening. We always do here in July. Always. It always happens. So it's surprising to me when other people are like, oh, days on market are increasing. Yeah, and it's July. We know that's going to happen. People are going on family vacations. It's dead week to the schools. Dead week, if you didn't know, is when the public schools cannot hold an official practice. Many people take vacation during this time. 4th of July, you're going to go up to the cabin or go visit family for the 4th of July. The fourth factor was appraisal gaps and canceled contracts. Earlier I mentioned I don't have insight into how many sale contracts have terminated or actually what appraisals had happened. I know I can tell you what my personal business has had. I've had 3 properties not appraised this year. Out of the 26 transactions that I've had thus far this year, 2 of them, the buyer decided to make up the difference in appraisal and the contract price. Only one of those 26 was the appraisal low, and we had to negotiate with the buyer in order to come up with a new number that everybody would be agreeable to. But a moment ago, we did talk about how many expired listings did take place, and those numbers are creeping up. Now, what I didn't look into detail is how many of those got relisted and then actually sold, either with a new realtor or either at a new price. But that happens each and every year. Last but certainly not least is local and economic shock. We know that with tariffs, with interest rates, buyers tend to retract when there's uncertainty and they say, well, let's figure this out before we go and make a major purchase like a home, which in turn, many of the people that need to buy a house, like you, my friend, you might need to sell a house first. So that also holds homes off the market wherever you're moving from to where you might be moving here in Benton County. With major employer of Walmart here, as of recently, Walmart laid off about 1,500 local employees. Now you may be thinking, holy cow, that's going to dramatically affect. If you look back in history, Walmart does some major restructuring. They lay off a bunch of people, then they hire a bunch of them back, or they help try to find them new jobs, or they give them an opportunity to apply for another position somewhere else in the company. So yes, you see those news headlines that are like Walmart lays off thousands of employees. But take it from somebody that's here local, they hire a lot of those people back, or they create new roles that helps better fit their business priorities. All that to be said, my friend, I believe that elsewhere in the country, if you are not in a growth market, you're going to see a significant change in home prices. You're going to see a significant market shift, maybe a bubble pop, however you want to talk about that. I do not believe it's going to be a correction like 2008 to 2012. I don't see that happening. Regardless of where markets are elsewhere in the world, it being a major inbound move here to Northwest Arkansas or growth here in Benton County, we always see a bit of a softening this time of year, but I do believe we might see a slight correction. Maybe a little bit retraction, but not a major correction like it is happening in other parts of the country. My friend, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. It's always a pleasure to put this information together for you, and now you know a little bit more about what life is like in and around Bentonville. Thanks for watching.